We'll let you know in 10 minutes.
Right, I just want to give a very brief overview of science, ethics, education, assisting smart living, which is the major theme of this conference, I believe. Bioethics for smart and independent living. Good health is not a natural state or universal right. Rather, it's a matter of achievement, a consequence of privilege, or just good luck. So you can do a lot to maintain good health or lose it. It's not a right, you've got to work for it. Now, my presentation takes two aims. Part one is to provide a biological appreciation of adult health and well-being. And part two is to endorse community empowerment by means of healthcare reform which promote facets of smart living. Is there any way we can get rid of the... I suppose we'll just leave it on there. I can't read it, you see. Okay, part one is health and well-being. The biology of stress, or the general adaptation syndrome. Whatever we're doing, stress is fundamental to the way we adjust ourselves to the environment. The stress response is a neuroendocrine response to any demand placed upon it. But you can divide the stress into various parts. Eustress, which means happy stress, and distress, specific diseases of adaptation. So eustress uses the same biological mechanism, but it's life-promoting and it makes you happy and well adjusted to the environment. Distress is the opposite. Common modifiers of the stress response. There are a lot of genetic basics that modify the stress response as well as the environment. So the body within the environment is really one interacting system, and it's influenced by, sex, gender differences. Males and females generally respond to it slightly different to stresses of the environment. Genetic factors, social factors, the age, physical environment, learning and conditioned experiences, emotional or hormonal states, nutrition, prenatal experiences, genetic and epigenetics. Unfortunately, there is not enough discussion about prenatal experiences which can affect the offspring and against into future generations. And cumulative effects. Accumulation is not just additive, the stresses are not additive, they're cumulative. And here's a pattern of showing the stress response as it happens. The GAS, or the reactive homeostasis, is responsible for the maintenance of physiological equilibrium. When the GAS is activated, the cerebral cortex, which is the conscious mind, the limbic alliance, the emotional mind, and the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, stress hormones are mobilized. And this is a curve throughout life. You have maybe stress in the beginning, a response against it and overcoming it, and then you plateau it or you go forward. The biology, okay, here's the initial response of the stress is the alarm reaction, and which is the generalized sympathetic stimulation. It's the release of adrenaline. The physiological effects of the alarm reaction mediated by the sympathetic nervous system to stimulate the release of adrenaline, and that's a short-term effect to any environmental stimulus. And following the alarm reaction, either the individual overcomes the stress which has been allocated to it, or not. If it doesn't overcome the hormonal stages, the next stage in the stress response. The stage which is called the stage of resistance, which is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal regulation. And increased circulating levels of stress hormones adaptively reset the body's equilibrium by adjusting the neuroendocrine control mechanisms of practically every physiological system. And this is happening all the time, minute to minute. You may be sitting here in the lecture theatre 1 minute, then go outside, and the alarm reaction gives a response for you to adjust to the changed environment. If there's a stressor outside, the hormones need to actually also be stimulated and they adapt. So you can see here cortisol, which is the human hormone which controls the hormonal level of stress. Cortisone, for example, is for the rat. Different species have slightly different molecular structures. But cortisol in the human is in the short term mobilizes energy, in the long term causes muscle wastage, impaired immunity, hypertension and impaired fertility. So there's stress again. In the short term, it mobilizes reaction, it increases the person's ability to overcome the stress. But if it's prolonged or chronic, it causes long-term stress diseases. This is probably why in the modern life people don't talk about eustress much anymore, because stress in the environment seems to be all negative, which is long-term, causing muscle wastage, hypertension, impaired immunity and impaired fertility. And here you can see this poor individual is very physiologically stressed, but I'm sure he's also emotionally stressed and is using all his systems to overcome and stay there, not fall. So the magnitude of stress is not so much of what happens to you, but how your body responds to change. Now that is very important. You need to be able to respond adequately to any change, which could either be, a eustress or a distress situation. Sorry, that seems to be I've got a problem here. My apologies. Okay, so we can have a look at then. Let's look at pregnancy. We'll have a look at the epigenetics across the generations. So it's just more than just affecting the individuals and the society the individuals are in, but also subsequent generations can be affected by environmental change. Epigenetics is the study sorry, my presentation takes the prize. Epigenetics is the study of change in organisms caused by modification of gene expression rather than alteration of the genetic code itself, so that the expression, the genes can quickly respond to an environmental demand placed upon it. Epigenetic effects on the embryo are periconceptional environmental influences that may modify developmental success and long-term health. So that when we're thinking of lifetime stresses, we shouldn't actually start with birth, but before, in the pre-fertilization and fertilization and early development is very important as well. Sorry, you might have noticed that I haven't been well for the last couple of days or so, and it's really shame. My big apologies. Here's the schematic diagram of human development from preconception to birth, all effective right through in a continuum and going into the next generation. So in summary of the first part is acute stress increases arousal and attention. Chronic stress depresses our immune system's functions through the overproduction of stress hormones, and harmful stress-induced dynamics may self-perpetuate across subsequent generations. And of course you can see here the social environment and the individual disposition through lifestyles goes across through the biological systems and influences the next generation as well. Part 2, empowerment and smart living. Smart living provides practical knowledge and skills for people to take action in their own home to improve their quality of life and to reduce their environmental impact, such as health and lifestyle products, mobility equipment, bedroom, bathroom, living aids. Now these change our environment very much, and any longer-term changes to this and how that affects our biological long-term evolution is not really known yet. Now, if you just take one part, we look at artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence applications range from intelligent networks to smart cities to autonomous and cognitive systems, including humanoid robots. Just a random example, smart homes. A smart home can be defined as a resident equipped with a high-tech network linking sensors and domestic devices, appliances and features that can be remotely monitored, accessed or controlled, and provide services that respond to needs of its inhabitants. Quite new in evolution. So here we can see some multifunctional care robots supporting independent living at home, which would change our environment, our way of life, and also our epigenetics, because the new experiences coming on all the time. So you provide assistance to technologies, reduce loneliness with company, for example, support household tasks, provide emergency detection and handling, bring objects, offer reminders and entertainment, connect users to the outside world. So we need to actually apply the precautionary principle, which means balancing risks and uncertainties. I suppose smart living increased innovations may actually improve, or they may have a downside. You need to have a look. And basically in our life, there's the interaction between the biological rights and political rights, which interact very closely with socio-economics and health through bioscience, bioethics. Every child has the right to express its full genetic potential. Every citizen has the right to gain biological awareness. I believe this very strongly. And thank you very much. And I'm sorry we're stuffing up with this smart living instrument.
Thank you very much. So we can now have some questions. I should declare an interest. One of the first papers I published, I think was in fact the first paper that showed a connection between the adrenocortical and adrenomedullary syndrome. That's between the cortisol and the adrenals systems. That's close to my heart.
Yeah, well, I worked in this sort of area by giving drugs, and since caffeine is the highest use in the world and it's legally available, I could tick my rats within 3 days for coffee in the realm of human consumption.
Our experiments were in sheep, where there were different stresses, one of which was a barking dog.
Oh, yes.
Okay, we're open for questions. We'd like to rest.
Good, well,
no, maybe I'll ask another question. There's been a lot of speculation about how the stress response actually developed, and one theory is that the evolution of the hormonal or endocrine system involved originally a responsiveness or sensitivity to the outside environment, but then somehow became internalised through maybe genetic changes. So in fact, that idea that the stress response is an adaptive response to changing environment probably goes right back through
Well, it
evolution
does,
to the very
yes, it
beginning.
does right in the beginning, and it certainly, there is a lot of evidence of its development in the mammals, but all animals respond to the environment. It's one way that they need to harmonise between the living in the environment, and certainly the hunter-gatherer people, they responded. Well, stress, the response needs to be quick, and there needs to be a resolution, and that's in an evolutionary way. But then our lifestyle has changed, and now we've got long-term stresses, and that's the unhealthy bit, which, because it hasn't evolved properly in evolution, because it wasn't needed. So, yeah, just saying the same thing as you can.
And we can think of the social environment, including conversations and discussions of this sort
Exactly
as
right.
part of that homeostatic mechanism.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Irina. Thank you. Our third, thanks very much. Our fourth